Welcome back. It is a new day and it is time for a new colorway. So, just uploaded to the website, we have Whispers from the Woods, and that's what we're going to be dyeing today. First thing we need to do, get our yarn into the pots. We're going to do 5 skeins on our fingering weight base. And this one is a little bit different than what we've done before to a point. The biggest difference is we're not going to be adding any ridges or valleys to this one. Our yarn is fairly, it's wet, it's just not dripping. And then we're going to take and add in about 3/4 of a cup of soak. Soak consists of a little bit of water, a shot of vinegar. And what we're doing is we're basically dropping the pH in the pots to make sure that that acid dye strikes. The pH in these pots right now is about a 4.5 to 5. So it's nice and low. Make sure you push that yarn down. We want to keep everything as uniform as possible. This one is absolutely stunning. It is straight to my heart. I absolutely love greens and I love browns, and I wanted to get another colorway in that style. So let's get our super duper dark green. This is basically a emerald green that we have added charcoal to really darken it up. There is a little bit of chestnut in there as well. I have always found that if you have a green and you add just the tiniest little bit of brown to it, it really brings out that richness in that green itself. Into the center of the pot, we are letting the dye come across. We really want to get it mixed. This is the exact same in the center, with the exception everything is halved. So we have about half as much of the green, half as much of the black, and half as much of the charcoal. So a little bit lighter. We've still got that beautiful oliveness to it. And then across the other side here, we are going to toss a super duper rich brown. This is a chocolate brown mixed with a chestnut, a little bit of splashing. That's okay. Mixed with the chestnut, and then a hint of golden yellow to take and really bring out that richness in that brown. Once the dye is in the pots, get your fingers in there, get it mixed up. We want this dye to go as deep as possible. We want to get rid of as much white as we can possibly get rid of. When we flip this yarn over, you're definitely going to see that there is still some white, so you got to dye both sides. I had a question the other day. Somebody asked me, what would happen if you didn't dye both sides? And what you would get is just the way the hanks are put together. There would be a whole lot of white, and there would be a chance if you were knitting up like a pair of socks or something like that, one sock would come out really dark and rich in color, and the other sock would be really light and muted. So definitely flip these over. You don't want to leave it. It never seems to end well. If you're doing a little bit of white, that's fine. I highly suggest if you're doing white in a colorway, you keep all of the white on the same side. So if I was doing it on the right-hand side of the pot, the front and the back, I would most likely keep white just to try and avoid that fadedness. So we've got the yarn flipped. You can see we still got lots of white on this side, but that dye really did take and come through. So on this side, we're going to change it up just a little bit. We are going to go with a much lighter green in the exact same recipe, basically. So this is very close to what we had in the center of the other side. And then into the middle here, we are going to toss some brown. Absolutely. This is basically exactly the same as what we had on the front, on the left-hand side. We've now tossed it into the middle, and then across the left side here, we are going to really lighten it up. We're not going to go with a straight brown or a rich brown. We are actually going to throw in some tan. Now, tan does have a tendency to fade towards the green side of things. So, although it is tan, to me, at least, it feels like a green, and it goes really well with both a brown and a green. So we've got that on that side. We want to get our fingers in here again and get this really mixed up, but we're not done yet. We got a little bit more to do here. We are going to do sprinkles, which is beyond exciting. I love my sprinkles, right? So basically got the dye in there, got it all mixed up. Next thing up, do some sprinkles. This is our chestnut. So chestnut has a tendency to have some blue flakes, some red flakes. And if you go really, really heavy with the chestnut, it will overpower just about everything in the pot. So you want to kind of take it easy on the chestnut sprinkles. And like I said, you're going to get a whole bunch of different colors out of this. So you want to make sure that if you're doing any kind of sprinkling, you test it out a little bit just to see what kind of colors come out, because all colors are mixes of other colors, right? So that's why I love that chestnut, is it's got a whole bunch of different stuff in it. We're also doing some camo speckles. It's basically a camo dye, and this one's got some blues in it and some greens in it. It is cool once it's all done, finished. Toss the lid on. We do need to take and cook it pretty good, because in all honesty, we've got these sprinkles, and sprinkles are just really, really saturated color. So we do our best to take and cook it off. There is going to be a little bit left behind because of those sprinkles, but not a lot. Like really, you can see just the tiniest little bit of green was left, and then we've got just the tiniest little bit of brown. Everything else is gone. When you're doing the sprinkles though, you want to make sure that you really, really give it a good rinse. Now, the best thing that we can do is basically hang this yarn up and let most of that water drip out. Not all of it. You don't have to wait that long. If you let all the water drip out, it's really, really hard to get it into the rinse. But basically, we want to drip out as much of that as possible to get all the dye out. Oh, just kind of missed here. There we go. All right. Drop this into our rinse bucket, and then we'll take and let it sink. And you can see, you know, we've got some air in the top half of these skeins. They're not sinking very quickly. So also in the rinse bucket, you're going to notice the tops don't actually sink into the bucket themselves. So what we do, we grab a little bit of a smaller jug and we just pour some of the rinse right on top of it. Basically what you're trying to do at this point, at least for us, is to get rid of any of those little flakes of dye that didn't actually stick to the yarn. So they didn't melt into the water, you know, they're kind of sitting there. 9 times out of 10, this stuff comes out crystal clear, and I'll show you. We're going to take and pull it out of the soak here. Throw it up. Normally, we'd have 2 guys on this. I'm holding the camera. Jay here is helping me out. So the skeins are actually quite heavy when they're full of water. So it's kind of tough to kind of hold it up there, but normally we would hold it up for a couple minutes just to make sure that this extra water goes back into the rinse bucket, and that way we can take and use it again. So as you can see, it is crystal clear. There is no dye coming out of these whatsoever. And 9 times out of 10, that's what we expect. 1 or 2 dips into the rinse bucket, we're good to go. If you're doing this in a sink, same kind of an idea. If you have your pH set to the right level, your dye levels at the right level, and your heat set at the right level, there should be next to no dye coming out of your yarn. So just adjust one of those, adjust all of those, whatever you got to do to try and stop that dye from bleeding out, right? We don't want to waste any dye. Onto our drying rack. As you can see, we got a whole bunch in the background there. Some Life in the Slow Lane, some chestnut, some forest green, sun yellow. Oh my goodness, the racks are full, right? Anyways, new colorway. Make sure you spread them out. It's all about airflow. It really is. We've got a couple fans. They're not blowing directly onto the yarn itself, but they are circulating the air in there to make sure that everything dries up. Onto the twister. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Get yourself a twister. Anything, whether it's a drill and a hook, something. Save your arms, save your shoulders, save your fingers. It is not worth it. I used to do this by hand, and it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. End of the week, I dreaded it because I knew it was just going to kick the crap out of me. So get yourself a machine, save your body. Give them a quick twist. When I'm twisting my yarn, I like to make sure that all the colors kind of play together. Sometimes when we're doing this, we've dyed the center a specific color and then the outside's a specific color, just so that we can take and skein it up and have it fade from one color all the way up to the next. On this one here, I want the backside with all the brown and the speckles to really play with the greens, so that when you're looking at this skein, you can kind of get a sense of exactly what's going on there, right? I know it's not unwrapped, and once you see the swatch, it all kind of makes sense, but I just want to be able to get that feeling. Now you're noticing that I am tucking in the ends. These are the ties that actually hold the skein together. They're not knots in the yarn or anything like that. I like to take and push them in especially if I'm doing photos or something like that, because it just really, really cleans up the yarn. It makes it look absolutely beautiful, right? There we go. We'll toss them in the light box here. And you can see those dark, rich greens with those rich browns. And you can kind of see those speckles coming through too, especially on this right-hand skein. You can kind of see those green speckles coming through from the camouflage. And then over here on the top, on the left-hand side, you can see some of those chestnut speckles coming through. Absolutely love it. All right, so anyways, on to the Swift and on to the caker. We have a electric caker. I don't think I would go any other direction, but that's just me. I know everybody's got their own kind of way of doing this. I prefer basically a larger caker, right? We want to make sure that those cakes are really held together. And to be honest, if you're only spending, $10 to $15 on a caker, they don't always turn out exactly like you want them to, at least in my experience. So I pulled out my two ends. One of them I've tied off onto the Swift. These things start spinning out really, really fast. So I want to make sure that everything's secure. Wrap it around 3 or 4 times on the caker itself. And just start really, really slow. You don't want to, jerk anything or anything like that. So run it a little bit slow. And then as everything starts speeding up, you can slowly turn up the dial and really crank it up. There we go. Cake is done. You can see it turns out absolutely beautiful on this caker. This is a Romarin caker, which is a company out of Eastern Canada. So they are awesome, absolutely awesome, and one of my favorite companies to deal with when it comes to cakers and twisters. All right, there's that cake. Let's get into the light box so you can really see those colors come out. Absolutely beautiful. You can see there was a lot of saturation and everything kind of played well together. If we have a little bit of a mess up and we don't mix the dyes quite enough or mix the pots quite enough, you're going to see the center of the cake is either lighter or darker than the outside of the cake. Getting them mixed, make sure you're flipping them. That's where it's at. All right, on to the knitted swatch. So this is a AliExpress. This is the king size. What you want to do is basically get your yarn in there and you alternate, you weave in behind and in front of these hooks. Once you've got that done, give it a couple quick little turns. You want to get it all the way around at least twice before you put the drill on there. And I will mention, the manufacturer does not and will not condone this in any way, shape, or form. We absolutely abuse our AliExpress. And to be honest, we've gone through a few of them because we're using these drills. But we can take and put out a swatch in a matter of 2 to 3 minutes. And that really makes it worth it for us. So as you can see, we get that thing cranking right up and we get this absolutely beautiful swatch out of it. Nothing fancy, but it definitely gives you an idea of how these colors play together. All done. Normally you would, if you were actually making a toque or something like that, you would bind off these ends. You would sew them together, or kind of cast off like you would off some knitting needles. We don't. We are just looking for the center of this swatch. So we leave both ends loose. There we go. Kind of pat it out. Get those stitches nicely, evenly spaced, and just kind of straighten things out before we take that photo of the swatch itself. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here. You can see those colors and how well they play together. It's beautiful, right? Okay. Next thing we want to do, let's grab some skeins. What matches Whispers in the Wood? Well, on the right-hand side here, we have Woodland Greens. Then on the other side, on the left, we have S'more, Please. Another colorway that's kind of got those browns. It really plays well together. Up next, Horsing Around. Another one that's really got those browns that play so well into this colorway. Serenity, another one of my favorites. This one really felt browns to me. Like, just, if you like browns, greens and browns are hand in hand. And up last, the First Frost. Look at this set. I absolutely love it. It's kind of got a fade feel to it. I just It's beautiful, right? We've got those light browns all the way over to those dark greens. So again, on the other side of things, semi-solids, we've got our forest green, which is very matchy, I must say. And of course, if you've got forest green, you need chestnut. You really do. Those two just hand in hand, absolutely stunning colorways. And if you've got those two, well, then, you might as well throw in some underbrush. It's another green tone. Beautiful again, right? And you know what? Forest green and chestnut, they really pair well with mouse gray. And mouse gray goes good with just about everything. So throw it in there. And to top it off, we've got charcoal. Charcoal plays very well with these colors. It doesn't really take away from anything in any way, shape, or form. It kind of adds to it. So I think it's time for our big reveal. Again, look at that colorway. Absolutely beautiful. You got those browns, you got those greens, everything's playing so nice. You got those speckles, you can kind of see them, and they still really come through in that knitted swatch. Beauty, is it not? Something about the forest really calls to me. I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll see you again soon.